I've spent several months each year over the past few years living alone in Da Nang, Vietnam. These are the experiences, the most traumatizing experiences, that stick out to me, whether there was any true danger or not. This particular Sunday began as most Sundays did while I was living in Da Nang, Vietnam. I put my backpack on and headed to the local market to stock up on fruits and vegetables for the week. Once I came back home with them, the first thing I always do is wash everything thoroughly. It was while I was washing the dirt off the cauliflower that I realized these specks of dirt were moving around my sink. And they could have been anything. But of course, they were spiders, teeny tiny spiders. I looked at the ground around my backpack and the specks of dirt, these little spiders, were also moving. I grabbed the top of the backpack, put it in a garbage bag, tied it up, and threw it out with my fruits, my vegetables, and all of the other inhabitants that were inside of that bag. I didn't sleep for a week after this. I kept waking up and being like, whoa, thinking there were little spiders on me. I mean, I had that backpack on my back, up by my neck, by my hair. Ooh. This next scary moment happened while I was in my friend's apartment. We were drinking coffee, talking, and all of a sudden the whole building is shaking and there's this massive bang outside. It wasn't an earthquake. My earthquake anxiety is something I'll cover when I do a Bali story time. This wasn't an earthquake. It was a big bang that sounded like an explosion. We went and looked out our window and there's just dust everywhere. There was a building that was under construction and it collapsed, throwing bricks and debris all over the main tourist road. I have no idea if anyone was injured or what the outcome of this building collapse was, but it's absolutely terrifying, especially when you realize how much construction is happening in Da Nang at a given time. There is so much construction, and it's never really blocked off from pedestrians either. So you can be walking along the sidewalk, and if you're not paying attention, just fall in a construction pit. And I have walked past this building many, many times, and it truly made the danger real when I saw this building collapse and all of this mess landing right on the sidewalk and the main road. There was another night that I was coming back to my apartment after having a wine night out with a few girlfriends. For context, these events have happened over multiple years of different times that I've lived in Vietnam, and I've always lived alone in the apartments that I rent. So I came home, I was a little bit tipsy, in a good mood, and I go to use my washroom, and I feel something kind of tickle my foot, so I just, kick my foot and carry on. I turn the bathroom light on, and I look down, and there is a spider. I kid you not, the size of my fist with these thick, hairy, they probably weren't even hairy, but they had these thick legs and it was just on the ground. I immediately froze and I sat there and just stared at it, which could have been 10 minutes, it could have been 20 minutes, I don't know. I just didn't know what to do. It was a wet bathroom, which means that there's not a separate area for the shower or for a bathtub. It's all made into one area and there's a hose. So because I knew if I swatted at this and I didn't kill it and it escaped, I would never sleep. So I started spraying it and trying to get it to go down the drain, and I just lost every animal lover on my channel, but then continued to spray it with this hose and it eventually ended up down the drain. So I covered the drain hole back up and went to bed. About 20 minutes later, all I hear is of the drain sliding open. The entire process was repeated, except this time once I got it down the drain, I put a pot upside down on top of the drain. I'm fairly confident that it was a huntsman spider, so they're not poisonous, but their bite can hurt you, and these are also known as Vietnamese bathroom spiders because they're very common inside of Vietnamese bathrooms. Knowing that it wasn't poisonous, I left the next morning while the cleaning lady was coming in because I figured she would clean the pot up and put it away, and I would never know if there was a spider under it or not, which is how it needed to stay if I was going to come back to the apartment later that day. Street dogs are very common in Southeast Asia, and I see them pretty much everywhere that I go, with Da Nang not being an exception. Typically, if you leave them alone, they will also leave you alone. A couple that I knew were getting back onto their motorbike after lunch, and it was as they started to take off that a dog comes out from the alley and starts chasing them. They weren't able to pick up speed fast enough before this dog jumped up and nipped at the back of the woman's calf. She was riding behind her boyfriend. It wasn't a bad bite, and there was only a little bit of blood. But there is the risk, especially in Asian and African countries, of rabies. The thing that's so scary about rabies is that once you start showing symptoms of the disease, you will most likely die. It is almost always fatal. The good news is that if you go and get the rabies shots in time, you can stop the infection. She went to the hospital and ended up getting 4 rounds of rabies shots, and she is absolutely fine now. This also would have been a few $100s, so definitely get travel insurance, as it will, or it should, cover it. I imagine there are quite a few backpackers in Southeast Asia that will get a scratch or a bite and they will ignore it given the cost of these rabies injections, and they'll probably be fine. The chances of this dog having rabies are ridiculously slim, but to me that risk is just absolutely terrifying. I'll leave in the description the travel insurance that I use. It's less than $1.50 a day and includes COVID coverage. I'm obsessed with the ocean, and my favorite way to start any day in Da Nang is to go for a swim and then a nice long walk along the beach. One morning I was walking along the beach, as I normally do, and this boat is coming up and it's dragging something massive behind it. I have no idea. I mean, it's the size of my living room area here, this big net. And it's coming up and it has like a tail on it too. And they pull it up onto shore. Whew. Wasn't fish. It was a net full of jellyfish. And not just the jellyfish that were contained in the net, but the meters of tentacles that were coming out through the holes of the netting. And jellyfish in Vietnam are much more than just a nuisance. They can actually be deadly to humans if you get wrapped in their tentacles or you come across a poisonous one like the box jellyfish. The worst part about this is that I saw this boat bringing in a net full of jellyfish multiple mornings in a row. I still swam, but I stopped seeking out secluded areas and instead began swimming along with all of the other Vietnamese families on the crowded parts of the beach. The next experience was while riding on the back of a motorbike through a mountainous, curvy area. So there's lots of hills and you can never really see what is around the corner. As I'm on this bike, I'm praying for my life because I see these big trucks that are coming around the corners at wicked speeds, and they're not on the right side of the road that they should be on. So I figured people drive this every day. It's fine. I have an experienced driver in front of me. As we were going along, we ended up stopped and having to turn back around. We were stopped because a truck had collided headfirst with a motorbike. I already knew that accidents were incredibly common in Vietnam, but actually seeing this in front of me with the exact thing playing out that I had been so scared of the whole time I'm on the back of this motorbike was just too much. A ride-sharing option in Vietnam is Grab, which is essentially the same as Uber or Lyft in North America, but a major difference is that you can book to have a car or get on the back of a motorbike. Despite knowing the dangers of the road, I would still be using the Grab motorbike option because it's fun. It's inexpensive, it's fast, much faster than cars because they weave through the cars. I ended up using the Grab app to instead call a car to come up the mountain and get me and take me back down. There was no way I was getting back on the back of that motorbike. And saving the absolutely most terrifying one for last. I was going for a massage. This is something that I do every other day or every day when in Vietnam because it is so cheap and it is such a luxury. So I go in like I normally do. They take me to the massage room. It's a small room, there's no windows, and there's just the massage bed. My masseuse pulls out a small container and places it on the bed and asks me to put my clothing inside of it, and then she'd be back in a few minutes to do the massage. She leaves the room. I open up the top of this basket, and there is a snake. There is a green snake curled up inside the basket. I dropped the lid, and it was like a force field exploded because I just flew backwards. I don't know how I did it. As if someone had grabbed me by my back and pulled me. Anyway, I creeped so slowly back to the door because I didn't want to make any noises or any sudden movements that were going to freak the snake out and have it get defensive and then have it attack me. Making it to the door and having my hand on the handle was, oh, it was amazing. It was such a moment. I knew on the count of 3 I would take a deep breath and throw the door open and get out of there, and I was going to live. I reached back for the door and it's locked. I was locked in a room with no windows and a snake. Of course, me trying to open the door jolted the snake, and all I see is its head come out of the basket and it just stares at me. I didn't want to start banging at the door because the snake would lunge at me, and I just started banging my elbow against the door, trying to make a noise without making any sudden movements. No one came. No one came for what felt like 10 minutes, and it honestly could have been 30 seconds. It was in that moment that I realized maybe no one was coming. Maybe they had locked me in this room with a snake on purpose. They've locked me in a room with a snake. This was not the case. My lovely masseuse came back a few moments later. She opened the door. I bolted out of there, closed the door, explained the situation, paid for the massage, and left. I have spent many Canadian winters in Da Nang, Vietnam, and this is the only time that I have ever seen a snake. So don't let this deter you, and especially don't let it deter you from massages because they are wonderful. And even I was back in a massage room by the next week, but not that one. Despite these experiences, I would go back to Da Nang, Vietnam in a heartbeat. Freaky, creepy things happen all over the world, so don't let this deter you if you have a trip coming up. Let me know in the comments if any of these would deter you from going to Vietnam, or if you've had any of your own freaky experiences while traveling. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a like, and I also hope you'll subscribe so I can catch you back on the channel for more travel tips and hacks soon. Bye!